Donald Trump is marking the first 100 days of his second term as president of the U.S. Now, his steep trade tariffs have shocked markets around the world and increased the risk of a recession. However, our guest says the next 100 days of Trump's second term could be positive for the markets. We're joined by Greg Valliere, Chief U.S. Policy Strategist at AGF Investments. Greg, great to see you. So that's an optimistic view, or you think things could be brighter for this second 100 days? Give us your argument here, please.
Well, they couldn't be a hell of a lot worse, right? It's been a pretty chaotic time. Nice to see you, by the way. I do think that there was a very important development in the first 100 days, and that was the markets won. As we had day after day of being down 1,500, down 1,000 points, all of a sudden, I think it became clear to Trump and his inner circle that this was not working with the markets. And the markets, I think, controlled the narrative as we got well into the first 100 days. I think the market's message was, you keep doing this, you keep confusing us on tariffs, ripping into Jerome Powell, and we're going to sell off. And the markets had quite a sell-off almost exclusively as a result of what Trump did.
Looking ahead for this 100 days, the second 100 days, tax cuts or maintaining tax cuts are going to be high on the agenda, and there will be a debate on possibly needed or possible cuts to Medicaid.
Yep. The Medicaid story is going to be the Democrats' big issue, and I think they'll win some points there. But tax cuts for the Republican base, that's like catnip. They love tax cuts. I think we'll get a tax bill done, maybe in the House by the end of May, early June, maybe in the Senate not until the end of the summer. But I do think we'll get a pretty big tax bill, which is good for growth and would be good for Donald Trump.
So that'll go through, but cuts to medical care, in particular Medicaid, that's going to rock the boat in the States, and of course a lot of people will be vulnerable here.
Yeah, it's the most controversial part of this bill, and I think when all is said and done, the extent of the cuts will be greatly reduced. That even a handful of Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to go along with this. But I still think Trump can get his bill. He may have to spin it creatively, but I think he'll get his bill by the end of the summer, but not with his deep cuts on Medicare and Medicaid as he had thought a few months ago.
Meanwhile, though, you reckon just on the political front, the Democrats are essentially leaderless.
Yeah, that's a big part of the narrative that we saw in this first 100 days. As I've been saying for quite a while, the Democrats have no leader. The Democrats have no agenda. And that's pretty hard to succeed with neither of those factors. There's been the occasional governor, the governor of Illinois right now. There's been the occasional governor who has shown some fire. But basically, the Democrats are adrift. They're lucky that there's no election this fall. There's a couple of minor ones, because I think if the election were held this fall, the Democrats could do even worse.
Of course, there's talk that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could become the Democratic standard bearer. She's only 35 years old, but of course, she'd be seen as very left-wing.
That's the thing. I mean, she's quite left-wing on virtually all of her policies, but she's very articulate. She's got a lot of energy. I think she'll be a factor. This probably, believe it or not, Andrew, I'd say there's probably 20 serious candidates who are thinking about the next presidential race. So there's a long way to go. But an economy, maybe I should just mention quickly, I think that the economy now is Donald Trump's economy. We got a number this morning the markets didn't like. We've had several numbers they don't like. And I think the markets are saying it's no longer Joe Biden's economy, as Trump has been contending. That argument has dissipated. It's a Donald Trump economy. And if we sink into recession, which is not out of the question, a Donald Trump economy could be an albatross for the Republicans.
What is your thought broadly on U.S. stocks? I know that's a very general question, but would you be inclined to overweight U.S. equities right now?
And maybe a little bit, but I would make this point. I think a recession is still not certain. We've been talking about this for over a year, and we still haven't had a recession. If the economy were to suddenly really slip because of tariffs mostly, then I do think that, believe it or not, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, has ammunition. And I don't rule out at all at some point in the second half a rate cut or maybe two rate cuts just to make sure the economy gets the medicine it needs for to keep growing. And I think because of that scenario, the economy doing okay, I think stocks can muddle through.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Okay, you bet.
Greg Valliere, Chief U.S. Policy Strategist at AGF Investments.